It is my pleasure to introduce Jim Dieter, ALN CEO. Welcome, Jim.
Hi, Nick. Yeah, thanks for the introduction.
No problem.
And it's another beautiful day here in Washington, D.C. area. Our guest today is Jennifer Zach from Uberlytics, where she is CMO, and she's also a board member with the ALN and was a part of our planning committee for our fall event. So we have a lot of interesting things to talk about, and we'll focus on the path forward is the big thing we'll be talking about. There she is. Hello, Jenny. How are you today?
I am doing great. I am speaking to you from Phoenix, Arizona, where we are still unseasonably warm, but supposed to be cooling off this weekend finally. Excited about that.
I mentioned to Jenny earlier when we talked that I had never heard the word Arizona used on TV as much as I've heard it in the last 2 days. I even know what county you live in now. God. What are the chances of that?
We're just looking forward to everything being resolved and moving forward.
I think North Carolina might have had it right. It's like, go away, we're not going to tell you anything for 2 weeks. Put your TV cameras somewhere else. But it's been kind of quite interesting exercise in democracy. So quite good. But not our topic for today. I know there's no news has happened in the world in the last 3 days other than the U.S. election. So we'll try to create some, I guess. So Jenny, we usually, we've known each other a while now. And I love working with you and on the ALN stuff. And we've had a chance to work, on some, business opportunities as well. But we always like to start with the origin story. So, how did you get into asset management?
My background has been in marketing and communications for a long time. My education was in international relations, heavily focused on political science and economics. And in 2013, my husband and business partner, Tacoma Zach, took over a company called Uberlytics. And Tacoma's background, he's a chemical engineer, and he's worked in the water and wastewater sector. And at the time, I had my own marketing and communications firm, and it made sense for me to set aside that business and join Tacoma in this endeavor. So I had a new language I had to learn. Thankfully, in my past experience, the niche I'd kind of fallen into was being a translator of experts. And experts are often very, very good at speaking about what they know. I had been working with a number of people actually in financial services and just developing their communications and making it accessible. So I brought those skills to Uberlytics and this idea of criticality and risk consulting. And we really sat in the gap between maintenance and reliability, maintenance and operations in an organization, and the bigger picture of asset management. And so we were getting involved in a lot of maintenance and reliability community events, and that's where we ended up meeting you, Jim. One of the things we were looking for at the time when we met you was a place where the conversation was bigger and including the bigger picture of asset management. And that's when we learned about the Asset Leadership Network and said, hey, this sounds really cool. Let's join. And the rest is history.
That's good. And you didn't even refer to my my variant of the elevator speech, which is the one beer pitch. I remember talking to you in Tacoma at this event, I guess in the exhibit hall, probably.
I think we decided to meet up at the bar.
Yeah, and then we said, let's meet at the bar later. And in one beer, apparently I found a golden tongue somehow for the moment, and convinced them to be interested in the Asset Leadership Network, and they are just key parts of what we're doing. Well, let's see, to go off script a bit. So you've been on our board, which we've really kind of reinvigorated and reimagined in the last couple of years. You've been on the board for a while now. What do you think about being on the board? What does that look like?
That's been a really neat opportunity for me. On multiple dimensions. First, learning what being a board member is. We have some really great people on the board with lots of diverse experience, and they understanding the structure of creating a nonprofit, and what the role of a board is. That's been a fantastic new dimension to my professional experience. And then just having the opportunity to work with a bunch of like-minded people to say, okay, how do we take, we've been a really grassroots organization. How do we take this fledgling effort that has a lot of enthusiasm and put a shape and a structure and a sustainability to that? And it's been a great experience being a part of the team, figuring out how to do that and what we need to bring in, what we need to formalize. In many ways, we're applying systems, asset management systems thinking to building our organization that is evangelizing and advocating for asset management. Sometimes we step back and go, wait a minute, if we're thinking in asset management terms, what do we need to bring from that way of thinking to our own organization? That's always great.
Neat. Yeah, one of our other board members is Michael Lipsky, who has written a couple of really good books, and some that are one, Street Level Bureaucracy, that is still, it was written 50 years ago, and he updated it in 2010, I think, and it's still used in business schools. Remarkable book. But Michael and another friend of mine recommended that I take this a class in nonprofit management, a short class at Georgetown University. And it was, as you're talking about how to run and, set up an association and run it. And it was that in spades. I was a little bit of the odd duck at the, because most of them were like orphanages and helping women in education and inner city this and food pantry that. And I was like, oh, stop, we manage stuff. It's a pretty big deal, but it's not quite in the same league as some of these other more person-oriented things. Mm-hmm. But people's a good way, maybe is a good segue. By the way, I need to get Michael Lipsky on one of these shows. It'd be great to talk to him.
Yeah, I would love to sit down and pick Michael's brain. I think he has been a really awesome contributor, so humble and saying, I'm here to learn about asset management, but I think he just has a wealth of insight to bring to us.
Yeah, he worked for the Ford Foundation and was a professor at MIT, and so really cool. And he's my neighbor, so that's nice. But one of the takeaways, wanted to talk a little bit about our fall event. And one of the big takeaways for me, and one of the ones I've gone back and watched part of again, I'd like to watch the whole thing again. By the way, all the presentations from the fall event are posted on our website. So you can go and watch them again. Nick, thanks to Nick, did an awesome job of helping us run this. So we had some real professional level support. And he's been working on editing, snippets that are very interesting and useful. But there's also, cutting each speaker into a separate piece, etc. There's a couple of those that are just really good as case studies. If anybody ever says you have a case study, the one I was going to go to and mention was Kofi Smith from Atlanta Airport Terminal Corporation. Is an awesome speaker, and he's the executive. He's the embodiment of got everybody's dream and asset leadership and asset management. Is now a senior executive that's totally engaged. But one of his big themes, and the word he started talking about, his first thing was people. You have any thoughts you want to share? You could share about, listening to that and what your thoughts were about that.
I think one of the things that appeals to me so much about, just talking about asset management, sometimes, we talk about it like it's, 42, the answer to everything, life in the universe. But it really, the potential for changing, the conversation when we talk about how we manage the things that help us do what we need to do, is, the idea of value and how to deliver it. And, people are central. One of the big themes we talk about with clients is the idea of alignment. And it's that line of sight, understanding why your organization exists, and then understanding that what you do personally in your job, your mandate, contributes to that. And you can contribute to that well, or you can be an obstacle. And I think the asset management thinking, applying that to getting people on board is so powerful. The other thing that always comes up in conversations is the idea of silos, and everybody operating in their own zone, ignorant or willfully ignoring what's happening around them. But the potential for asset management principles and practices to develop collaboration, to foster cooperation and understanding. And one of the images we often use is a picture of a rowboat with everybody going in the same direction, and the power of that. And when Kofi's talking about people and empowering people and getting everyone on board, that just elevates the operation and outcomes of an organization so powerfully.
Yeah, and it's always complex to talk about assets because they're so ubiquitous. One of my favorite people-related asset management little signs, a slogan I saw. This was at Goddard Space Flight Center many years ago, but they had the NASA science directorate was there. And they'd have a sign in this one department where you came in that said, "Science is people plus tools."
That's great.
And I thought, yeah. A lot of, but then you have, we have speakers and people involved that work for organizations where the asset it really is the focus. It's like, trains or a metro system. I mean, it's about the train, but the objective is moving people. So the asset is very clear. In some industries, it's less clear. I know you do a lot of work in the water industry. So, I mean, anybody that really thinks about it, understand, the water comes from somewhere and goes to somewhere. But other people just turn on the tap and it's like it's there. It's like, not a problem. When it goes down the drain and goes away, and they don't think about it anymore. So a little more removed.
Taken very much for granted.
Yeah. I did a whole article one time on assets that, when you're done with them, they just go away. We were trying to find where away was.
I think one of the things that appeals to me so much as a communicator and I call myself a word nerd, about asset management is that a lot of it is about effective communication. A lot of it is about getting our heads around ideas and concepts of value, like thinking about, okay, it's not just maintaining the train. What does the train accomplish? What is the value it delivers? And how do we get everybody to understand that? How does that understanding then change and redirect what we might choose to do? Or how we might be willing to make a compromise, when we're talking about limited resources, trying to drive consensus. That is, consensus about priorities. That's a communication exercise. That's articulating ideas in ways that everyone can understand.
And of course, another name for all that is criticality, right?
Yes, criticality is critical. Yeah, that is, a real core of our business. And what we advocate for is that before you start getting busy doing all kinds of things and setting priorities and allocating resources, make sure you understand what is critical to meeting your objectives. And when, we were talking about, nonprofit. So when we're working with utilities, public infrastructure, we're usually not talking about profit and the bottom line. We're talking about level of service. What is it that we have to deliver? So utility has to deliver safe, clean water to protect the public health of its communities. So what are the assets that are critical to that? And are we looking after them first and foremost? Then we can decide how to set our priorities and apply our resources and what we're going to do to those assets to maintain them, acquire them, design them, dispose of them, all the things in the asset life cycle. But we got to know what's important first.
And that's, to me, that just totally ties to ISO 55000 too. To get beyond the old assets or, have something to do with depreciation. And that's all fine. The financing assets is something that needs to happen. But assets in the organization is all about the value and achieving the objectives of the organization. And that is such a simple idea, and it is so powerful.
Yet so misunderstood, or I would say maybe not even misunderstood, but overlooked.
Yeah. And it's still, even with the ISO community, ISO 55000 community, people still get tripped up. And I was thinking about writing a paper on this myself or something, or doing a presentation. But the difference between value of and value from, people get, confused about that, and they're both very complex topics that are very important. But, the big effort, is, the big idea of 55,000, what the ALN is about, is the value from assets. I always like to say things in terms of a car, because we can all relate to that quickly as an asset. And it's like, you don't buy the car to make the monthly payment. You don't buy the car to change the oil. You buy the car to go places.
Right.
Go to work, have fun, whatever it is, that's great.
It's funny. Cars are a common analogy that comes up when talking about asset management and stuff, because it's something most of us understand. We have a car, we need to keep it running. It's been a great vehicle and analogy, unintended, a great means of explaining some of these more complex ideas. Like when you take a complex idea in a great big organization, it can be hard to grasp, but you bring it down to something you understand. When you have a car, there are things that you have to do to make sure it keeps running. And why do you have a car? You have a car to get you from A to B, like you said. So that's an analogy we've used often.
So we've had some sessions talking about the fall event, and it was just amazing. And it really seemed every year, it's just the entire conversation is taken to a different level. It takes the ALN to a different level, and it takes our member organizations to a different level. And some of the participants, the who attends our events is just an amazing list of, a diverse list across the government and beyond. Just pretty, they're stunning, the amount of, I think it's stunning the influence we've already had. But so where I'm trying to get to here is So what do you think this year, having participated in a lot of the events and been a focus of some of them, where do you think it's taken us this year? Where do you see us going, or what do you see as the opportunity, or any of those?
So I'm also seeing that we're getting some questions too on the
Okay.
sidebar there, and I think
Oh, you answer and I'll look at the questions. How's that?
I'll be able to answer one of them. I think one of the neat things was being forced into a virtual event, and ended up being an incredible opportunity that just allowed us to expand in ways that the barriers had seemed intimidating before. The idea of how do we record, produce videos, all of that. Being forced online with Nick's help and Mike's leadership, we ended up creating something really far greater and with far greater reach, like you were saying. And with, we now have a library of enduring content from this, most recent event. I think that's opened up is an understanding of the possibility that we have to create even more content and even more opportunity for engagement year round. So I know that the ALN is going to be bringing a whole lot more events and webinars and things throughout this coming year, not just our annual fall forum. We really, really hope that we'll be able to gather in person again next fall. There is a magic in person that cannot be replicated online. But I think we'll be able to do something hybrid that allows us to keep that expanded reach and audience combined with in person, being able to get together and collaborate in DC. We also had an incredible opportunity this week to meet with an advisor to Biden's transition team, something we've aspired to. Advocacy has been an important part of every fall event and our ongoing communication and efforts to meet with Congress. And so that was an excellent opportunity this week to start a conversation, to be bringing awareness of asset management to potentially Biden administration. Of course, we're all just waiting to see how it unfolds, and our reports will be delivered to whatever whoever's in the White House. And however that turns out, we continue to advocate for better asset management and asset leadership at the federal level.
Yeah, it's quite good. We're last week we had a presentation by Jack Kelly and folks from Grant Thornton about our sector asset leadership success strategies, or excuse me, success structures, we changed it to, which is a great opportunity. And in the coming weeks, we hope to have each week feature a different sector, and wherever they are, whether it's square one or a complete draft of the structure answering these questions that are contained in this document that was explained last week. So if people are interested in getting involved in that, let me know, or Mike Bordenaro, or just our reply information. It's a real chance to have input, and we will include that. So we're putting together information. Mike will be doing some writing around it. We'll have an updated version of our national asset leadership strategy, and we'll have some review and information about our fall event and some of the takeaways from that, which are remarkable. And that will go to transition team, whatever it might be, and to Congress, and also just be made available for agencies and others to consider.
And I have to say, I mean, I was a skeptic. I will admit, when you said, let's go after forming a national asset leadership strategy. And I thought, that is ambitious. But it is taking shape. It has a structure with you and Jack Kelly and Grant Thornton's leadership. It is impressive. And I think that is something really exciting that just helps put shape to this idea of how can we apply these excellent principles at the national level. That's exciting.
Yeah, that was having a conversation with somebody earlier today, and I said, and I don't think I've ever said it just this way, but the ALN is kind of about two things. One, it's about leadership, asset leadership, not just asset management. Asset management, of course, is very important. Assets are very important, but nobody else is talking about that asset leadership piece, the top piece, and bringing this to senior leaders. And I think we're increasingly, I mean, I think we're doing it now. We were trying to do it before, and increasingly we're doing it, and we're making that happen. But the other thing is nobody else is doing what we're doing. Nobody else is thinking this way. For example, ASCE, the American Society of Civil Engineers, has their highly publicized and famous scorecard, which is very useful. And they do have a lot of information behind it. But there isn't a path forward. It's a score. It's like a report card. It's not a plan of study. It's a report card. Where we're more about a plan of study. From Uberlytics, from your company perspective, what has been the effect of COVID and trying to work in this environment? And how do you see that in 2021? Yeah, is there anything you would be able to share about that might be interesting to people?
So on the one hand, in just doing the work with our clients, we've had to figure out shifting to doing remote work, and that has actually worked out pretty successfully.
Yeah.
It took everybody a little time to kind of figure that out, and what does that look like? But we've been doing criticality assessments with teams over Zoom, and it works. So that's been an interesting dimension. We'll see how that goes forward. On the one hand, it ends up saving a lot of money in travel. On the other hand, it is just a little trickier. As I was saying about our event, there is a certain element of in-person interaction that is always more beneficial. So we've been able to work, and the bigger picture of working with utilities, the impact of COVID going forward is probably going to be felt and seen in the future. And it's going to be an economic trickle down of the impact on ratepayers, and then utilities being under even more pressure, with even greater financial and economic restrictions. The imperative for better asset management is going to be even greater. We will need to figure out how to keep things running with fewer resources. And so that, there is a highlighting of the essential nature of better asset management through this pandemic.
Great. One question was if has Uberlytics used ISO 55000 with clients, and if so, what sort of benefit have they seen?
Well, we were very proud to be a part of leading and facilitating the certification, successful certification in, I believe, only 9 months, Jim, at Raytheon. And that was one of the first under 10 in North America ISO 55000 certifications. Is that correct, Jim?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a really great privilege to be actively involved with an organization pursuing certification and coaching them through that successfully. With a lot of our water utilities, we're in a position of coaching them, guiding them to apply the principles of ISO 55000, but most of them are not in a position to pursue certification formally. Jack Kelly has a really good way of describing that, and I can't remember what it is right now, but basically adopting the values and principles of the standard, but choosing not to certify. So, we coach them to the benefit. We set them up so that if they should choose to certify, it's going to be a simple process for them. We're still working with I would say, the water community at large, on understanding the value of ISO 55000, understanding the potential value for certification. But definitely applying the principles.
It highlights, I think, a common misconception about 55,000 for people that aren't familiar with it or haven't worked on an implementation or looked at case studies. But this isn't like starting a new company. It's not a blank piece of paper. It's like you're already doing this stuff. Especially if you have a good quality management system, because all the ISO management system standards are very quality based. But if you have risk management and quality management and information management, this is not rocket science, as we like to say. It's getting those three people to talk to each other. The common joke is you go to an organization to help them do this, and you talk to them, your point of contact, about who should be in the room. And you show up in the room or the Zoom, and the people are introducing themselves to each other because they've never talked. And that's, the silos, as I've said a couple other times, I like to think of more of them as intersections that haven't been connected, nodes that haven't been connected on the network. And connecting the nodes brings a lot of power, which is, I think, a core ALN concept of, boy, you put A and B together and I didn't even know C existed before.
Yep.
Yeah.
There was one other question for you both. Have you, by any chance, recently been in a presidential transition team meeting with a member or anything recently?
I did allude to that. Yes, it was a very cool meeting with a lot of really cool people who were excited to learn and understand about asset management, and the potential for their own roles and mandates where in their day jobs, and agreeing to take that on to the transition team. I'm not sure what we're supposed to disclose and not disclose, Jim. So I'll punt that over to you.
I mean, basically, it was a typical, let me explain asset management and asset leadership to you, and value from assets and objectives of the organization. Those kind of things are what we talked about. It's really stunning when you're working on the NALS, the National Asset Leadership Strategy. We had the same sort of, what really dawned on us is one, what are the national objectives? I don't know. What are our national objectives? Anybody know? Yeah. There's agency objectives, but national objectives. So, wow. So what assets do we need to do that? But, really, a lot of the focus is on infrastructure, and there's really more money spent on personal property and on facilities than other infrastructure, but, over the long term. But if you talk about assets at national level, it's about infrastructure. It's what they're interested in, and it's a good starting point. But, it's all about shovel-ready projects, building a new bridge, building a new road. It's not about, You need a plan for, how to do this. And wait, before that, is that really what you want to do? After World War II, we chose to build airports and highways, and we neglected rail and some other modes of transportation. Well, I don't know how much intentionality there was in that, or why those decisions were made. And we can all say that they have impacted every aspect of our lives. Where we live, how we work, everything was impacted by those decisions. And we're at another such point, I believe. But at any point in time, the same sort of decisions about infrastructure have huge implications going forward. Are we just going to, fix potholes? Are we just going to build more roads? If we can meet by Zoom, maybe we don't need so many airports and roads. Maybe we'll need to have home offices, and what does that mean? So what kind of infrastructure do we need for that? You can even imagine contemplating the question, what infrastructure do we need for 40 years from now? But there's people smarter than us that if we get this question teed up, that we got people that can start talking about answers to that kind of question. And at least personally, that's where I hope we go as a country, regardless of any of the other stuff, is where are we trying to go and how can we get there? We need to move people. How are we going to do it? We need to communicate. How are we going to do it? We need safety and security. How are we going to do it? The big questions, which gets us back, I guess, to the ALN angle, is we're not afraid to ask the big questions. We're not in the detail. There's people, well, many of our people, but people in general are smarter on a lot of the details. Maintenance reliability, as you mentioned, is a great example. I mean, it's like, what a mature profession. They're really, really good at it. If anything isn't maintained properly, it's not because we don't have people that know how to do it and processes to do it. It's because somebody didn't plan for it and didn't plan for the life of the asset or the life, the asset, the life cycle management issues. Did I just want to rant? Sorry. Any other questions, Nick?
Not that I'm seeing. I think that's it.
All right. Anything else to add for today, Jenny?
No, just that thank you for inviting me on, and really, really enjoy our association with the Asset Leadership Network. It's valuable to us as a company, and it's something that I appreciate personally. It allows me an opportunity to use the skills that I have and bring them to this effort and challenge my thinking and develop on asset management, and just really enjoy the colleagues here too.
Excellent. Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. Thank you for being on. And Nick, thanks for doing a great job of hosting, even under your current circumstances. And thanks everybody for attending today. We really appreciate the people participating, and it will be posted online for people to view it going forward. We're getting a nice library of, God, we have some really interesting people. I could make a list a year long just of interesting people we could interview. So that's great.
That's great. Thank you.
That's
Great.
good.
Well, I see we're out of time, so I just again want to make sure we mention our member organizations here and thank them for being a part of the ALN and for helping us do things like ALN Thursdays at 4 right now, and like the event that we just had in October.